All right, it's time for the much anticipated follow-up review to my fierce CT rival 300 PRC with a Leupold VX-5HD 3-15. If you have not watched my initial overview video, you can see that right here. First things first, cue the beauty shots. All right, welcome back to Mindful Hunter. I'm your host as always, Jay Nichol. Now I originally did an overview video on this rifle, which Omer from Precision Optics put together for me just a little bit under a year ago. So let's go over it real quickly. As I mentioned, it's a fierce CT rival. Now the C stands for the carbon in the barrel and the T stands for the titanium in the action. It's chambered in 300 PRC, and I have the Leupold VX-5HD 3-15 by 44 scope with the fire dot duplex reticle. Custom turrets, courtesy of Omer, who dialed this thing in for me. It's got tally rings. There is a built-in level, which I'm going to get into in a minute. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, and I have the Spartan Precision Javelin Pro bipod, and I have the Picatinny rail attachment. That's one of the nice features of this Fierce. So if you remember, last year when I did the overview video, I had not even shot the gun yet. It had been sighted in by Omer, and it had been sent down to me, but I hadn't even shot it. So since then, I've taken it to the range multiple times. I've had it out on multiple hunts. I haven't had it on any successful hunts yet, so the gun is still a virgin. It hasn't actually killed anything, but I've got at least, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 days in the field with it. So I feel competent to have a bit of a discussion about my opinion on this gun as a mountain rifle. So first things first, let's start with the positives. I have beat the hell out of this gun, and it has never once lost a zero. I took it on a sheep hunt where I was very aggressively bushwhacking. It definitely took a couple knocks and a couple tumbles. I've had it elk hunting where we were going through really thick brush. And after all that bushwhacking, I've never had to touch my scope. It still shoots just as accurate as the day I got it. That would be point number two. The guarantee from Fierce is that this is a sub 0.5 MOA gun out of the box. So they guarantee that with their ammunition that they tested it with, and there's really only 2 factory rounds you can buy for 300 PRC right now that I'm really aware of, and that's the match grade and the ELDX from Hornady, the Precision Hunters. And I run the 212 grain ELDX Precision Hunters. And they guarantee sub 0.5 MOA out of the box if you use that ammo. I can confirm that that is definitely what this gun has shot for me, taken it to the range multiple times. It's one of those guns where I can literally show up, pull it out, shoot. I'm not a champion marksman by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even really shoot that much, but I can hit a 4-inch steel plate at 400 yards, first shot out of the gate every time. Super reliable, super accurate gun. Now, to put that in context, I could do the same thing with my Tikka T3X that was chambered in 300 Win Mag. I've since sold that gun, but I would take both guns to the range, and the Tikka kind of performed at 400 yards. I mean, I'm not shooting out to 789, which maybe you would start to see the difference in the ballistic coefficients of the PRC and the 300 Win Mag, and maybe you would start to see the benefits of the, more finely tuned Fierce over the Tikka. But I would like to say that just as a practical application, that Tikka shot pretty much as well as this Fierce, and the Tikka was $1,000 and this thing's like $5,000. So, take that with a grain of salt, but highly accurate gun right out of the box for sure. A thing I wasn't really expecting is that it's very good at not showing wear. I thought the carbon fiber barrel was going to look way more beat up after a couple of my hunts, and you have a hard time. I can see a couple little nicks here and there, but this gun still looks really nice. Like, it holds up to abuse much better than I thought it would. And further on that note, like, this is just a sexy gun. It is a really nice gun. Like, it's something that you get excited about taking out into the field. I like this gun a lot. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. Just overall, aesthetically, it is a super pleasing gun. And the final point that I'll make on the positive end of the spectrum, I really like the pistol grip. For those of you who've never shot a pistol grip, it feels a lot different than a traditional stock. You kind of grip it and pull it into your shoulder. I have a hard time explaining it, but you end up wrapping 3 fingers around this part of the stock here instead of kind of laying your hand against a traditional stock, and it takes a little bit to get used to. I think I'm going to prefer that for most of my guns moving forward. I think it's a much more reliable grip. I feel like the scope sinks into like eye relief much better. Like, my eye falls into the eye box of the scope much more reliably. Like, I just find that it's I focus more on archery than I do on rifle hunting, and I feel like, for an analogy, I anchor much better with the pistol grip than I do with the traditional stock grip. So overall, lots of positives about the gun. But now, let's have a look at some of the things I didn't like. Okay, the real big thing is that this gun is too long. I'm a mountain hunter. That is primarily what I spend my time doing. I do not recommend this gun if you are going to be going through thick brush on your way into the Alpine. It has a fairly long barrel, full length stock. No matter where you put this thing on your pack, you have multiple inches of barrel sticking up out of the top and or multiple inches of stock sticking out the bottom. So you're either, busting brush with it when you're going through the thick stuff. And then if you try and hang it down too low off your pack, every time you go to set your pack down or sit down, you end up smashing the butt of the rifle on the ground. Now, I have looked at alternative carrying methods, which I'll get into a little bit more in a minute. And I do like the Kifaru gun bearer, but it also introduces an asymmetry into the suspension of your pack that kind of bothers my OCD. Like, I don't like my pack riding to one side like that. It's kind of one of the best methods I've found for carrying my rifle so far, but I would prefer to just have a shorter rifle. And really the takeaway there for me is that I should have bought a rifle with a folding stock. Now, I hadn't even really looked into folding stocks before this, and the funny thing was, after I came home from my sheep hunt, and I was really frustrated at how long the gun was, and I was trying to think, can I move to a caliber with a shorter barrel? Like, what are my options here? Mark from the Hunt Backcountry podcast did a whole series on his new rifle with a folding stock, and I was like, geez, like, why didn't I think of that, or how did that not come on my radar beforehand? With what I spent on this rifle, I definitely could have found a folding stock option for a similar price range that would have put me in a similar caliber or quality of gun. So moving forward, I will be doing that. I'm not sure if I'm going to take this platform and just put it in a new stock or sell this as is and build a completely new gun. But for my purposes, like, I think if you were doing flying up north for a caribou hunt where you're going to be walking around in the tundra, or if you spent more time in Alaska where maybe you're going to be up in the Alpine already because you're getting dropped off up there, I think a longer gun would be not an issue. But in British Columbia, you spend the vast majority of time getting through thick garbage before you get up into the wide open stuff. And for that, this gun is just no good. So I would say very strongly that if you're going to spend a lot of time busting brush, I don't recommend this gun. And in fact, I don't recommend any gun with a relatively long barrel and a full length stock. I would, if the funds are available, I would spend the money on a folding stock gun. I'm actually just starting to do all that research, so I don't know exactly which one I'm going to go with or how I'm going to build that new rifle, but I'll keep you guys updated as I go on that. Next, I'm not a big fan of the floor plate. So this gun doesn't have a magazine, like a detachable magazine that you can fill with bullets and then put in. It just has this floor plate. And it did get jammed on us once. My dad was using it. And because it's got the floor plate, you have to unload the gun every time you get back to the truck, which is like a pain in the ass. And maybe somebody can explain to me, like, what is the actual benefit of the floor plate as opposed to a magazine-based system? Like, is it just a weight savings? I don't understand, because for me, it's just highly impractical. So in the future, I would personally not build a platform or purchase a rifle that was a floor plate. I found it highly annoying. Now, if somebody's got some information or they want to add something in the comments below, maybe there's something I'm missing, I'd be grateful for the tips. The next thing isn't so much a comment on the rifle as it is on the rifle build. This scope is mounted too low. Now that's my fault. Omer asked me, do you want it low? Do you want it medium? Do you want it high? I said keep it as close to the gun as you can. And it's so close that I can't even fit rifle scope covers. Like I can't fit the slide-on flip top ones, and even the little neoprene like kind of socks with the elastic bands. There's not enough room between the barrel and the scope for that to actually slide, which is kind of a pain in the ass. You want to be able to cover your scope. Now, if I was going to use something like the new Marsupial or the Stealthy Hunter, I think that would be fine, and maybe that's what I should have used with this gun. But I want like a couple more millimeters, and maybe that means using the medium height rings instead of the low rings. But that, moving forward, I wouldn't mount a scope this close to a gun again. It's just impractical. Okay, next point. This tally level, I don't like. Basically, you can't see this and your scope sight picture at the same time. The way it is, the placement of it, it gets buried underneath, basically the ocular lens blocks your vision of this. So you have to significantly move your head to see if it's level, and then come back into the eye box of the scope. And the rifle moves considerably during those head movements. I've seen some that are placed off to the side, and I think if you could keep your eye in the eye box of the scope and just glance to the side, again, to use archery as an analogy, in my sight picture, I can see my pin, I can see my target, and I can see my level. So I can kind of let my eyes dance between those three things, and then when I'm comfortable, I release my shot. Here, there's too much head movement required to look at the level and then get back into the eye box of the scope, which means I don't really have faith that the gun is still level between those two movements. So it's kind of nice to have it there, but I wouldn't put it there again. Again, not so much a comment about the rifle, but I have yet to find a sling system that I like. This is the first gun I've had that has the kind of side-mounted sling port and with the swivel, as opposed to being on the underside of the stock or the end. And I thought I was gonna like maybe do a bit better and hang a bit better, but for any of you backpack hunters, finding a sling solution is a nightmare. There's a new FHF one that I want to try out. Everybody's kind of raving about that. I've always liked the Kafaru gun bearer system, but again, as soon as you don't have your backpack, or as soon as you are really heavy, there's drawbacks to that system as well. So again, not really a comment on the gun, just a comment that I haven't found a perfect solution to that problem yet. And then finally, I really like this scope, and I think I would stick with it on my next gun. The only other one I might look at is the Nightforce NXS 2.5 to 10. That's a very interesting scope. It only weighs an ounce more. It doesn't have quite the zoom power of the 15X, but it's a higher grade optic than the Leupold. But for right now, I've been very happy with this scope. I've never had any issues. Some people complain that Leupolds don't re-zero, like when you dial out and then come back to zero, they don't center again perfectly. I've never had that experience, but again, I don't shoot rifles nearly as much as a lot of other people, so I'm probably not the best person to take that particular recommendation or review from, but I can just say that in my experience, I've had no issues with this scope. I know that was rather quick. I tried to cover all the kind of high notes. What's my general overall impression? This is a really nice gun, but for my purposes as a mountain hunter, with what this costs, I wouldn't buy it again. I think there are lots of use cases where this is a phenomenal gun, but for someone like me who's busting through brush a significant amount of time and not really ever looking at shooting more than 500 yards, yeah, I wouldn't buy this gun again. So I either sell this and use the money to build a completely new gun, or I take this platform, get rid of this stock, and get a folding stock and just kind of build it off of this platform. So those are my thoughts. I'm actually headed out for goat in 2 weeks in northern British Columbia. Gonna do a solo winter mountain goat hunt. Now I'm taking this rifle. There will be some brush busting. It's the only rifle I own, so clearly I'm gonna take it. We'll see how it does, and maybe we can break it in and finally put an animal on the ground with it. So as always, any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the comments section down below. I'd love it if you take a moment and hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the platform, kind of spread the information and help more people see this kind of content. If there's anything you want to see in the future, please let me know. Quick shameless self-plug. The Mindful Reviews community is live. So if you want to join a community where you get access to raffles for really cool gear, enjoy troll-free forums, and like-minded people with a great community for a super low cost, link is down in the description. We'd love to have you. If you got any questions or comments, always feel free to get in touch. I'm more than happy to chat about the community and why I think it's different than anything else that's out there right now. And as always, thanks for tuning in.